Hello, my name is Josh Mack, and today I'm going to explain to you climate change and how it affects humans and our economy on a global scale and national scale. So, what we're going to start off with is climate change in humans. So, over the last 100 years, our sea levels have begun to rise in a steady but alarming rate. So, basically, over the last 100 years, a little bit more, probably about 120 at this point, um, the sea levels themselves have actually risen 8 to 9 inches. Now, for a lot of people, that may not sound like a lot. However, when you look at this graph that I have given you, it actually shows that if since about 1970, I would say it's kind of hit a higher peak than it usually has. So what does that mean? Well, an increase in sea levels means places where humans live along the coast. Let's use the U.S. for example, and in particular Florida, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. The beaches along there have actually been disappearing more and more because of increasing sea level rising. So, what does this mean? It means that probably 100 years from now, there may not be a Florida anymore because it's all going to be underwater. Another important piece that is included in this is the loss of our glaciers, which directly relates to the increasing in sea levels. Great glacier loss is a major contributing factor to an increase in our sea levels, like I just said, because it's a giant body of frozen water. Uh, Glacier loss is a threat to natural water and fresh drinking water sources. A lot of our actual drinking water comes from glaciers. A lot of people might not know that. So, if those disappear, the amount of water that we can actually drink that isn't seawater is going to diminish over time because we are losing our glaciers. And as well, another important piece and factor that glaciers play into our climate and to our Earth is the simple fact that they actually reflect UV light from our sun. It's called albedo. And what that does is that when the UV lights come down into our Earth, um, the glaciers themselves, because they're pure white, basically reflect a lot of that UV light back up into our atmosphere and into the space, making it so that our Earth itself actually stays quite cool. And as you can see here again in this graph, from 1970 to 2020, it's just been a steep decrease. And that's because, unfortunately, our Earth has been heating quicker than it should. Another one is global temperature rise, which plays into both the previous two. Global temperatures last year were 1.51 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than 20th century average. So what does that mean? That means that on average, our Earth was hotter than all of the 20th century average. Global temperature increases are directly affecting how fast our planet warms, directly affecting how fast our glaciers are melting. So because of the global temperature index actually increasing, this is speeding up the process of our glaciers melting. Then the process of our glaciers melting is increasing our sea levels. So as you can see, each one is layered on top of the other, and each one affects the next. And this is a cascading effect that is only getting worse as the years go on, and we need to kind of fix this. Climate change. Climate change's economic impact on a national level in the U.S. So, we're going to look specifically at the national level. We're going to look at the U.S. as a whole, right? So, in the USA alone, with increasing natural disasters due to global warming, there's a projected 1 to 4% decrease in our annual GDP. So, how much money our whole nation makes as a whole by the end of this century. Now, again, a lot of people might not think, oh, 1 to 4%, that's not a lot. But then when you take into account how much money we spend as a nation itself, that's actually quite a lot, because what's going to happen is that if I mean, this is just the 2021 $1 billion weather and climate disasters that we had to use. I mean, look at the hurricanes, look at the fires, all of it. This is money that's getting spent to try and fix these, to try and combat these. And the issue is that these are only getting more and more and more, which is making us spend more and more money unfortunately, and these are only increasing as global warming happens more. Now, climate change and the global economy. Here's the big issue with this. So if we look at it at a global scale, decrease in overall grain, meat, and other life-sustaining foods being produced due to increase in temperatures will result in global food crisis that could quickly spiral out of control. So this is a pretty self-explanatory one. If our temperatures rise, what does that mean for us? Well, it means that there's less arable land for us to farm, to make grain, to make corn, to make wheat. All of these things that we take for granted also means less farming area for cattle, for chickens, for all types of meats that we eat, right? So that's a big, big issue that we're running into. Increasing global disasters will result in larger losses of life, leaving our sectors that rely on people to work them being hit, and GDP averages for those countries most affected significantly dropping, leading to larger poor sectors. So, like I stated, with the national level, this also happens on a global level. Look at India, look at China, look at the areas where these big major disasters are happening, mudslides, tsunamis, hurricanes, monsoons, major droughts, all of these things that are happening. People die from these, and the increase in our temperature is only going to cause this death toll to go up. And what does this mean for our sectors? Well, this means that if you have less people to run these sectors, you won't get things done, right? So less road workers to fix roads, which means they're going to be worse. Less people to maintain buildings, which means they'll fall into disrepair. And you're going to have these people who can't work these jobs, which means you're going to have more and more poor people in these sectors. Shortages on all fronts could lead to possibly more armed conflicts with nations looking to seek land where they can get said resources to fill their missing or lacking resources. So this is something that's happened over the years since humans have been around, honestly speaking. But the issue that comes with this is that when one nation lacks something to feed their people, to give their people what they need, but another nation has it, what's the right way to do that? Sure, they could pay for it, but that other nation could make them pay a premium for it. Unfortunately, human conflict is a thing, and what will happen is these nations will go to war with one another. You're going to see even more losses in life because these people are going to be fighting in the armed forces, dying to just stay their countries, which is only going to increase our poor sector even more, which is going to cause other issues if other conventional means of weaponry is used. And so we run into this issue of how do we fix this? How do we get all of this going? Well, we need to start on a personal level each, doing what we can as humans to try and mitigate this issue. But individuals can't do it alone, and we need to do this as a race. Because if we can't do this as a race, eventually all of these issues I just showed are only going to get worse as the years go on, and eventually we're not going to have a planet to live on. Our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are going to be stuck with an issue that we have created in ourselves. And so this is the issue that we're facing. These are the short versions of what can possibly happen to us and what is happening to us. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you took something away from it. You have a good day.